So you've called Leslie or myself and you asked the question, what's a good neighborhood for me to live in? Well, in this video, I am going to tell you just that, as that is one of the most common questions that we get asked. So hang around throughout this video so you can find an answer to that question. It may not be as simple as you think, but let's go ahead and get started right now. Hi, my name's Stefan, and along with my wife Leslie, as real estate agents, we get phone calls, emails, texts all the time from folks just like you who are looking to sell a home or to purchase a home here in our beautiful mountains and valleys in Virginia, and we absolutely love to help everyone that calls. So whether you're looking to move in 9 days, 90 days, whatever your timeline is, call us, text us, email us, and we will help you sell your home or find a home that meets all of your needs in the neighborhood that you'd like to be in. And additionally, if you like our videos, you like going on some of the adventures and some of the neat things we have here in our beautiful mountains and valleys and seeing and learning all about those, as well as learning about the real estate here in the area, we'd be honored if you'd click that subscribe button and touch that bell icon, and you'll be kept up to date whenever we put a new video out. Now, as I said, and getting into the video, what's a good neighborhood for me to live in? That's one of the most common questions that Leslie and I get asked. But the answer to that question, like I said, may not be as simple as you think. So to start with, I'm sure that like many places in the country, there are neighborhoods that we know of that have general areas, some of which may not have specific defined boundaries. They're just areas. Maybe a neighborhood, for example, is an old town that was annexed into a larger city or a larger town. For example, the Basic City area in Waynesboro is a fantastic example of that. I talked a little bit about that in a video that I recently did about Waynesboro. But in short, Basic City on the eastern side of Waynesboro was a thriving town during the late 1800s. But eventually, due to multiple factors, and especially economic ones, Basic City was annexed by the city of Waynesboro in 1923. Now, while Basic City may no longer be a town, there are multiple businesses, parks, and a neighborhood named after Basic City. You'll find Basic City Brewery, Basic Park, and you'll also find the old Basic City. Much of that lies in the BCMM and LC neighborhood, which stands for the Basic City Mining, Manufacturing, and Land Company. Now, many times this is a way that neighborhoods and areas of cities have gotten their names. So now, first of all, let's look at something pretty basic, okay? But I think it's something that'll help us understand things a little bit better later on in this video. And that is the difference between a neighborhood and a subdivision. Yeah, there is a difference. So the definition of a neighborhood, as you can see, is that a neighborhood has both geographical and sociological connotations. But I think we understand that it's a fairly specific geographical area that the people that live there make up that neighborhood. So what's the difference between a neighborhood and a subdivision? Well, here's a definition of a subdivision according to Virginia code. In Virginia, a subdivision is the division of a parcel of land into 3 or more lots or parcels of less than 5 acres each for the purpose of transfer of ownership or building development. Now, there's a couple qualifiers in that definition. Notice that this parcel of land must be broken into at least 3 pieces, and each of those pieces must be less than 5 acres in order for it to be considered a subdivision. Wow. Think about that. 3 houses could make for some pretty small subdivisions. When we think of a subdivision, we probably think of a parcel of land that has many, many houses on it. And that's usually true, but by definition in Virginia, you only have to have 3 parcels of land. Now, more to come on that later. Now, many times we use these terms interchangeably. We do this for multiple reasons. I mean, perhaps the size of the subdivision is so large that it creates its own neighborhood, or perhaps the neighborhood was named after a geographic feature like a creek or a stream. Now, of course, subdivisions are named after geographic features, like I say, but there are certainly other reasons too. But that's why we go back to the definitions. So why am I telling you about all this? Well, going back to that original question that is asked to Leslie and us by so many people, and that is, what is a good neighborhood for me to live in? Now, while Leslie and I certainly know what areas to recommend based on what you're looking for, that answer may differ from what you are used to if you don't live here in the area. Here's what I mean. Some of the cities and towns here in Virginia's mountains and valleys are fairly clear when it comes to the location of specific neighborhoods, and those neighborhood names are used rather frequently. For example, the city of Charlottesville has 19 neighborhoods that have clearly delineated boundaries that many residents in and near the town of Charlottesville use as a guide when talking about specific neighborhoods. In Charlottesville, you'll hear people talking about subdivisions, but referring to property in this way usually is more common outside of Charlottesville. Inside of Charlottesville, you'll many times hear people talking about Fifeville or the Barracks Rugby neighborhood or the Greenbrier neighborhood. Among other factors, the size of our cities and towns contribute to whether or not it will have specific neighborhoods. The fact that none of our cities and towns have populations that exceed 53,000 people means certain towns have neighborhoods that are represented by more ambiguous areas rather than specific areas of land with defined geographical boundaries, or at least there may not seem to be geographically defined boundaries. In any case, as I said earlier, we sometimes use the terms neighborhood and subdivision or development interchangeably. All of the larger cities in the area have their brand of neighborhoods, subdivisions, and areas, but let's use Staunton as an example. If you do a Google search for Staunton, Virginia neighborhoods, you'll find 4 neighborhoods that come up. Okay, well, Staunton's a smaller town than Charlottesville, so like you said, since it's a smaller town, there's fewer neighborhoods. Well, not exactly. You see, first of all, where are these neighborhoods located in Staunton? Well, here's the general area of the West End, Staunton Park, Woodley, and College Park. But if you dive a little deeper, you go into Bing Maps, you'll see other neighborhoods popping up on the map like Plunkettsville, Millbrook, Peyton, and Skymont. But here's another interesting fact. Woodley, from our Google search, and Millbrook, Peyton, and Plunkettsville on Bing Maps are actually not neighborhoods in Staunton. Well, what are they? Well, they're areas of town, and of course it's very common to know the names of areas of towns and even say that I live in the Woodley neighborhood, and that's okay. I mean, we do it all the time, and it's cool, but it might not technically be correct. So, going back to the original question again, what's a good neighborhood for me to live in? Well, if you're asking that question about Staunton, I would say, well, which of these 69 neighborhoods in Staunton would you like to look in? Yes, Staunton has 69 neighborhoods. So even though it's a smaller town, this is how the city's neighborhoods have been divided. You know, recently I spoke with someone in the building and zoning department in Staunton, and they understand that there's a lot of neighborhoods, and they might try to make changes to neighborhood identification in the future so that it's made easier. And if you think that's a lot,
lots and lots and lots and lots.
Well, here are Staunton's 185 subdivisions. Now, of course, we would imagine that there would be many more subdivisions, right? So while that's not a surprise, it's the interaction of areas, neighborhoods, and subdivisions that can make that good neighborhood question something we might have to think about for a second. So let's suppose you give Leslie and me information about the type of neighborhood that you're looking for. We might talk in more general terms using areas of the town like West End or College Park. However, there are some neighborhoods, or even subdivisions, that stand out in any city or town, and Staunton is no exception. They can stand out for many reasons, but if you told me, for example, that you wanted to live in Staunton and were looking for a somewhat larger home in an established but unique neighborhood, but that you don't want a home that's more than 40 years old, I would probably recommend we look in the Baldwin Place neighborhood. I probably wouldn't say, let's look in the College Park area, even though that's the area of town in which Baldwin Place lies. Now, by the way, if you're looking for a home like this, the homes in Baldwin Place began being built in 1987, and many homes were built in the 90s and 2000s. These homes are somewhat larger, but they all are fashioned after a Williamsburg-style home. Additionally, they all have wooden shingles, copper flashing, copper gutters, and copper eaves, with many other features that make this a truly unique neighborhood. Now, maybe you tell me you're looking for a home with amazing views just outside of town. In that case, I would recommend multiple areas and subdivisions outside of Staunton in Augusta County. But if you wanted to be inside the Staunton city limits, I might recommend the Old South Village subdivision. And I'll probably call it a neighborhood, but I probably wouldn't say, let's look in the Ingleside neighborhood, which is within the Staunton city limits. Now, it's barely in the city limits, but Old South Village has all newer homes with build dates beginning in 2008. The homes range in size, with smaller homes having about 1,500 square feet, all the way up to about 4,500 square feet. And they are currently building many new homes, and because the subdivision is elevated, it has some amazing views of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Shenandoah Valley floor. So, here's all I'm saying. When you ask Leslie and me about neighborhoods, we might have to get a few more details in order to help you find exactly what you're looking for. Now, if you really want to get into the weeds with this, and let's take a look at this particular part of Staunton here. And when I say we're going to get into the weeds, we're going to get into the weeds. What? But it is rather interesting, and it helps me illustrate the point that I mentioned earlier in regards to what a subdivision is here in Virginia. So here are the outlines of 3 subdivisions on the northwest side of Staunton: Virginia Place, Sherwood Estates, and Sherwood Forest. But wait a minute. If you look at Sherwood Estates and Sherwood Forest, you'll notice a small gap. Well, what's up with that? Well, actually, there's another one of those 185 subdivisions between those two neighborhoods. Lancelot is a very small neighborhood made up of 5 homes and 2 lots. Now, it's still a subdivision because a subdivision, remember, only has to be made up of 3 or more lots. Well, Lancelot has doubled that with its 7 lots. But wait a minute, there's still a gap. Why is that? Well, this narrow strip of lots is not any subdivision at all. Now, that's really weird, especially since the homes in this strip of houses were built at the same time the other homes in the surrounding subdivisions were being built. So why aren't these homes in one of the other neighborhoods? Well, let's zoom in a little more here, and you can see the 7-home Lancelot subdivision and the 7 homes in the no subdivision category. Now, of course, when the original land was bought to build the subdivision, it was subdivided and lots were laid out for a home builder or builders to build homes. But sometimes a builder may sell off a portion of the land to another company or another builder, and they may build as well. However, when they build, that builder may choose to create an entirely different subdivision for the homes they're building. Only 3 or more, right? Perhaps the original owner or his heirs sold additional land at a later date, and other neighborhoods had built up around that land, and this swath of land was left, and that's why this was built the way that it was. So why are these homes built like this? Well, I have no idea, but these are a couple of reasons why we sometimes see very small neighborhoods surrounded by larger ones. And because the houses are close to each other, we usually think of these individual subdivisions, and even the no subdivision homes as a single neighborhood as part of the community because they're all together and they're all similar. Now, let's talk about the neighborhoods in this area of Staunton. Sometimes even realtors struggle with getting the neighborhood or subdivision correct. For example, this listing shows a home that was listed in Sherwood Estates. However, when you pull up the tax information, you'll see that it is clearly in Sherwood Forest. Here's what it looks like on a map. You can see the purple dot representing the listing for Sherwood Estates. However, that location is clearly in Sherwood Forest. But I get that. Sherwood Estates, Sherwood Forest, somebody just made an honest mistake, right? Well, let's take a look at this one. Here's a listing that says this home is located in the Virginia Place subdivision, but the tax record shows that it's in the Sherwood Estates subdivision. As you can see on this map, it is only one of 5 homes that have been listed as being in the Virginia Place subdivision. So what gives? Why didn't they get it right? Well, here's our layout of the subdivisions that we just looked at a moment ago. Now, one of the 69 neighborhoods in Staunton is Virginia Place. Yes, Virginia Place is a subdivision and a neighborhood, and as a neighborhood, it encompasses the subdivisions of Virginia Place and Sherwood Estates. Oh, and let's not forget about one of the houses in the no subdivision group of homes as well. So now maybe I can see why 5 of these homes were listed in the Virginia Place subdivision. They're in the Virginia Place neighborhood, but technically, because the listing asks for a subdivision, it really should be Sherwood Estates, but not a big deal, right? Now, but let's go ahead, let's take a look at another larger neighborhood here as well. The Skymont neighborhood encompasses the Sherwood Forest subdivision and multiple other subdivisions not shown here on this overlay. And as you can see, we're left with the Lancelot subdivision and those remaining 6 no subdivision homes. Well, they're part of the Skymont neighborhood as well. Now, while the mislabeling of a neighborhood or a subdivision like we saw here usually isn't that big of a deal, that really brings a thought to my mind about protecting you and yourself as you purchase a property from any previous claims on the property when you purchase it. If you're purchasing your home using a lender, your lender will require you to purchase a one-time lender's title insurance policy so that they will be protected. But what about you? Well, whether you are purchasing with cash or through a lender, Leslie and I always recommend that you purchase owner's title insurance. Now, although an owner's title policy is optional in Virginia, if someone challenges your property title based on any title defects that may have been unknown, this policy protects you as the borrower and your heirs as long as you or your heirs have an interest in the property. For example, owner's title insurance can protect you if someone later sues and says that they have a claim against the home from before you purchased it. Legal claims could also come from a previous owner's failure to pay taxes or from contractors who say they were not paid for work done on the home before you purchased it. Although an owner's insurance policy is going to cost you some money when you purchase the home, you will be protected from any potential hidden issues from the past. So just a thought to help you make sure that you'll be able to enjoy your new home for years to come. Okay, so now I know that I've really gone down the rabbit hole so far that I've not only found Alice, but I've probably met everyone in Wonderland as well. But the purpose of this video is to just give you an example of what our neighborhoods are like here in our beautiful mountains and valleys. And each town or each city is a little different, and the answer to that question, what's a good neighborhood for me to live in, can have different answers depending upon what you're looking for and how the neighborhoods and areas of the cities and towns are broken up. But the great thing is this, that all of the confusion that I just shared with you that might be making your head spin right now is why you call us. We do all the work for you and help you through the process so you can find a home in a neighborhood or a subdivision or anywhere that is good for you and that meets your needs. Honestly, while there's some things that require your involvement in purchasing a home, obviously, there's much of that process that you can avoid by, like I say, just push the easy button. And that's what I encourage you to do. If you're looking to purchase a home in any of the cities or towns or even the more rural areas in which these cities sit, you've seen our videos, so give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, and we'll get started helping make your move as easy and as stress-free as possible, whether it's across town or whether it's across the country. Our goal is not to provide a satisfactory experience, but to provide an outstanding experience for you. So, from the many communities, areas, neighborhoods, subdivisions here in Virginia's beautiful mountains and valleys, until next time, I'll see you around town.